of the Chen dynasty. So one would expect that a Han history of the enemy that they overthrew would be biased, unsympathetic, and so forth. So our project for the next couple of days is going to be to read this only source for 2,000 years of information about Chen like a historian. This is an exercise, guys, in critical thinking. And so this is what this first page explains to you. That real readers don't just say, okay, it was written down on a piece of paper, therefore it's true. They think about every bloody line that they read, and then they decide. This is a great, great definition of critical thinking. Reasonable, reflective thinking focused on deciding what to believe. I've read it, now I'm going to decide whether I believe it or not. Not I read it, therefore some authority says it's true, and so I swallow it too. These are the 4 skills. So I urge you, and in fact I'll probably quiz you on your just basic understanding of these 4 skills. What does it mean to source a text? Following along right here on page 1. What does it mean to contextualize a source? What does it mean to look for corroboration and contradiction of a source? What does it mean to read a source closely, to pay attention to the language, to pay attention to all sorts of, to pay attention to common sense? Like, is this believable? So that's what the first section does. It explains to you what exactly we mean by reading like a historian. Page 4 gives you, I've got 2 resources for you. First of all, I told you, Sima Qian, who wrote the Shiji, the Records of the Grand Historian, the Han Dynasty history that we're going to be reading, has an incredibly interesting biography. So it is very important that you understand this particular page, all right? Because you can't make good, reasoned, critical readings without understanding this page. So looking at page 4, you see that there is one possibility that he's biased, pro-Han, anti-Chen. But you see a second one, number 2, his personal biography, his context, the context of this man himself. He has great reason to hate the Han emperor who he wrote under, and you'll read why. I will not be a spoiler. And then finally, his biography gives us a third possibility, that he is not biased at all, but only seeks the truth because he had a very emotional reason to possibly try to write the truest thing he could, namely because he swore to his father that he would write a great history. And then finally, the Han Dynasty itself, contextualizing it. It's very important that you understand at the bottom of the Chinese social pyramid. Quick quiz. Talk to me, look to me. What did Confucius think about businessmen? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs down. A small man thinks of profit. A noble man thinks of virtue. What did Taoism think of seeking wealth and business people? Thumbs down. We'll leave legalism because we haven't really talked about legalism, but I'll tell you, again, thumbs down. All right? They believed in war and they believed in agriculture. And that's it. So notice, in all 3 of China's classical philosophies, there is not one of them that says that business people should be honored. It's, again, a different planet here. Write this down, SPAM. I'm just going to give it to you now. SPAM, it's a great acronym. SPAM, S-P-A-M, social pyramid, SPAM. S is for scholar officials. They are the elites. If Bill Gates cannot pass the Confucian Civil Service exam, scholar official, S-P-A-M. If Bill Gates cannot pass this exam, even though he's a billionaire, he is not a man of honor. Because you have to pass this Confucian exam in order to join the imperial bureaucracy and become an elite. The way to elitehood is to be a scholar official for the Han bureaucracy. P, peasants. Peasants are considered right underneath scholars because they provide food. And food is essential. So SP, scholar officials, S. P, second level of the social hierarchy, peasants. Farmers provide obviously a valuable service because they feed us. Remember China's geography. It has a very, very small arable land to population ratio. So peasants and agriculture were always valued. Next is artisans, SPA, artisans. Artisans are people who make tools and crafts. These things are useful, especially when they are farming tools, or weapons and armor, or carts and things that transport grain. Anything that is useful to the common good. Artisans make that, so they produce also. At the bottom, M, spam, merchants, business people. Why? They don't produce food, they don't produce tools, they don't produce anything. They buy cheap and they sell dear. So they are considered, and this is the harshest word, and it comes up over and over again in Chinese ancient literature, as parasites. They simply suck the productivity of the peasants and of the artisans by taking what they buy, what they make, buying it cheap, and selling it to somebody else more expensively, and pocketing the profit. It was always legal to be a merchant, but it was never honored. So that's the Han Dynasty context. You will understand why that is important later. Look on page 5. This is the Chen kings list. You're going to be reading about not just Chen Shi Huangdi, the first emperor, but also his grandfather and his father. And so that's why this, at the top of the page, this Qin kingdom from 306 down to Yinzheng, who is Chen Shi Huangdi, that's why that's important. As you're reading, you might get it confused. That's why I made this little chronology of the 3 generations, grandfather, father, and Qin himself, so that these Chinese names don't mix you up. Look around on the tables, there is one somewhere. Now moving on to page 6. Now we're ready to start our readings. Your job here, for all of these topics, there are, let's just preview the topics, so you don't have to flip your pages. On page 6, the first emperor's bastard birth. That's 2 pages from, is this from Sima Qian? Look at the board. Is this from Sima Qian? No, it's from another Warring States period history, the stratagems of the Warring States. Those of you who like military history, this is totally cool because it's like all of the warring states like coming up with different strategies to gobble each other up or avoid being gobbled up. I've got it ordered. It's coming soon, just for my own library. So there are 2 pages from it. Your job is, do I believe this? Notice text number 2 on page 8. It's about the same story that you read in the Stratagems of the Warring States, except this is Sima Qian. So now you're comparing 2 different histories talking about the same story, Sima Qian's grandfather, father, and his birth. And then finally, the third, and this is the real kicker. This is about a different king altogether, and it's not from Sima Qian. This will be the hardest part of what you've done, of what you'll be doing. I urge you to read the footnotes that I did put there myself. For each page, they give you valuable background information to try to make it as clear as possible for you. And then the rest you've already read about them. So very short passages. The execution of the scholars in 212. There it is, straight from Sima Qian. Next, you didn't read about these, but these are wild. A prophetic text, a fortune-telling, future-telling text that Sima Qian writes about. And that's just a paragraph. Another paragraph on a mysterious meteor that falls during the end of the Qin dynasty. And it's a funny story. The next topic, and all of these you're doing the same thing. Do I believe this? Do I not believe this? And why? Using the 4, the sourcing, contextualizing, corroborating, and close reading. Chen Shi Huangdi punishes a mountain god. Bring that mountain god over here. I'm going to punish him. Notice that's just 1 paragraph. And then finally, this one's really interesting. All right, so if you've been tuning out because you can't listen for more than 5 minutes at a time, tune back in now. Notice this is from Sima Qian. It's from the records of the Grand Historian. And here on page 17, we have what are known to be the words that the first emperor of China, the book burning, scholar burying, great wall building, terracotta warrior making emperor, founder of modern China, wrote about himself. He carved these words into stone on top of Mount Tai and on top of another mountain. And Sima Qian got rubbings of them and wrote them down. We have rubbings that are like over 2,000 years old from these things, so we know that they exist. They're corroborated. And the really interesting thing here is, after everything that you have read, Sima Qian saying about Chen. Okay, great. Perfect time for the spinning beach ball. So the poem-like stuff is him telling the gods what he has done. And that's the last thing that you're going to read. And you're going to say, well, all right, so what sense do I make of this Sima Qian book? All right, so that's your packet.